Imagine a day like any other. The sun rises, birds sing, then the unthinkable happens. The dead return. Not just a few, but all of them. Every person who ever lived, from the dawn of humanity to yesterday, is back. This isn't a zombie movie, it's far stranger. They are themselves. Memories intact. What would we do? How would the world cope? The very fabric of our reality would unravel. Our history books would become a crowded cocktail party. The initial shock would be unimaginable. Picture the scenes, global pandemonium, social media would explode, governments would fall into disarray. The sheer number of resurrected individuals would be overwhelming. Where would they go? What would they eat? Resources are already stretched thin. Imagine trying to explain the internet to someone from the Stone Age. From a scientific perspective, it's pure fantasy, right? The laws of physics as we understand them wouldn't allow it. But what if our understanding is incomplete? What if there are dimensions, forces we haven't even dreamt of? This scenario could force us to reevaluate everything we thought we knew about life, death, and the universe itself. Scientists would be baffled, scrambling for answers. How is resurrection possible? What brought them back? Is it a natural phenomenon or something more? Imagine the research possibilities, studying the biology of the resurrected. The initial moments would be a cacophony of confusion and disbelief. Imagine a world where the news spreads faster than ever before, yet no one quite believes it. Social media feeds would explode with blurry images, first-hand accounts, and frantic questions. Is it real, a hoax, mass hysteria? Governments would struggle to respond, their carefully crafted messages drowned out by the sheer volume of the unimaginable. The very air would crackle with an electric tension. People would rush into the streets, desperate to confirm the impossible with their own eyes. Cell towers would overload as billions tried to reach loved ones, both living and newly returned. Amidst the chaos, there would be moments of pure, unadulterated joy. Families torn apart by death would reunite, tears streaming down their faces as they embraced loved ones thought lost forever. The elderly might find themselves surrounded by generations they never thought they'd meet, their lives suddenly rich with newfound connections. Childhood friends, separated by time and circumstance, could pick up right where they left off, their shared history a bond too strong to be broken. Yet these reunions would be bittersweet, tinged with a profound sense of confusion and loss. The sudden surge in population would cripple even the most robust infrastructure. Transportation systems would grind to a halt, overwhelmed by the sheer volume of people on the move. Food and water supplies, already strained in many parts of the world, would face catastrophic shortages. Imagine trying to feed, clothe and house billions of people overnight. The logistics would be staggering. Governments would struggle to maintain order, their resources stretched to the breaking point. Hospitals, morgues and cemeteries would be overwhelmed. The legal system would collapse under the weight of property disputes, inheritance claims, and a backlog of cases dating back centuries. In the vacuum of leadership, pockets of order would emerge alongside bursts of anarchy. Communities would band together, sharing resources and finding strength in collective action. Doctors and nurses would work tirelessly, tending to the sick and injured, their humanity a beacon of hope amidst the chaos. Scientists would pool their knowledge, desperate to understand the phenomenon and find solutions to the unprecedented challenges it presented. But there would also be those who exploit the chaos for their own gain. Looting, riots and violence would erupt as desperation took hold. The return of the dead would shatter our understanding of physics. The second law of thermodynamics, entropy, states that order inevitably descends into chaos. Things break down, energy dissipates, and ultimately life ends. Reversing this process on a global scale would require a fundamental rewrite of the laws of nature as we know them. Imagine a force capable of reversing entropy, of reassembling scattered atoms, of reigniting the spark of consciousness. The biological implications would be equally profound. How are bodies reconstituted? Where does the consciousness reside during the interim between death and resurrection? Is there a soul, a spiritual essence, that persists beyond the physical body, waiting to be reunited? The very definition of life and death would be up for debate. Imagine the research opportunities. Studying the resurrected could unlock the secrets of aging, disease, and even consciousness itself. The question of why would consume humanity. Was it a random cosmic event, a glitch in the fabric of reality, or a deliberate act with a purpose? Theological debates would rage, with some seeing it as divine intervention, proof of their faith, while others might interpret it as a test, a tribulation, or even a punishment. Imagine the global search for answers, religious scholars poring over ancient texts, scientists analyzing astronomical data, conspiracy theorists weaving elaborate narratives. The lines between faith and reason, between science and spirituality, would blur as humanity grappled with the inexplicable. The return of the dead would raise profound ethical dilemmas. Do we have the right to question this event, to try to reverse it, or to control it? Is it an act of God, a force of nature, or something else entirely? And if we could understand it, would we dare to manipulate it? Imagine the temptation to use this newfound knowledge for our own purposes. Could we resurrect loved ones selectively? Could we right past wrongs, bring back historical figures, or even create a world without death? The ethical implications are staggering, blurring the lines between life and death, between playing God and respecting the natural order. Our planet already strains under the weight of 8 billion souls. Now add billions more, many from eras of less abundance. The strain on resources would be immediate and catastrophic. Imagine the demand for food, water, clothing, shelter. Even with the most optimistic rationing, shortages would be inevitable. Clean water, already a luxury in parts of the world, would become a precious commodity. Arable land, finite even today, would be insufficient to feed the burgeoning population. The global housing crisis would reach unimaginable proportions. Cities, already bursting at the seams, would be forced to accommodate a sudden influx of residents, many with no concept of modern urban living. Imagine trying to explain high-rise apartments to someone from a medieval village, or traffic lights to a Roman charioteer. Slums and shanty towns would spring up on the outskirts of cities, sprawling masses of makeshift shelters housing the displaced and the desperate. Governments, overwhelmed by the sheer scale of the crisis, would struggle to provide even basic sanitation and healthcare. Jobs, 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 not. The job market, already grappling with automation and globalization, would face complete upheaval. How do you integrate billions of people, many with skills irrelevant to the modern economy, into a workforce already struggling to accommodate its existing population? Unemployment would skyrocket, leading to widespread social unrest. Traditional industries would be forced to adapt or die. Imagine the demand for tailors to clothe billions in a world accustomed to fast fashion, or for scribes in an age of digital communication. The agricultural sector, already facing labour shortages, would need to find ways to increase productivity exponentially. The new haves and have-nots inequality in the age of resurrection. The return of the dead would exacerbate existing inequalities. Those with resources, education and adaptability would be better positioned to navigate the challenges of this new world. They would have the means to secure food, shelter and healthcare, and to leverage their skills in the evolving job market. Those already marginalized, lacking access to basic necessities and opportunities, would be hit hardest. Faith and its afterlife. When Dogma meets resurrection, the return of the dead would send shockwaves through every religion on earth. Imagine the Vatican scrambling to reconcile millennia of theological doctrine with the undeniable proof of a mass resurrection. Picture imams debating the finer points of Islamic eschatology as the departed rejoin the living. The very foundations of faith would be tested as never before. Some religions might see this event as ultimate validation, the faithful reunited with loved ones in a kind of earthly paradise, their beliefs seemingly confirmed. But even within these groups, theological debates would rage. What does this mean for the afterlife? Is this heaven on earth or something else entirely? And what about those who died without faith? Would they be welcomed back into the fold? Others might view the resurrection with fear and suspicion. Some might see it as a sign of the apocalypse, a prelude to Judgment Day. Fundamentalist groups, clinging to rigid interpretations of Scripture, might reject the returned altogether, branding them as demons or impostors. The potential for religious conflict, always simmering beneath the surface, could ignite with terrifying consequences. Ancestral wisdom, modern dilemmas, cultures in flux. Cultures around the world, many steeped in ancestor veneration, would experience a profound and unsettling shift. Imagine families in China consulting with their resurrected ancestors on business decisions, or tribes in Africa seeking guidance from their returned elders on matters of tradition and law. The wisdom of the ages, once accessible only through stories and rituals, would be at their fingertips. But this influx of ancestral knowledge wouldn't come without complications. Imagine the clash between ancient values and modern sensibilities, between traditional practices and contemporary laws. How would societies reconcile centuries-old customs with the realities of a globalized, interconnected world? The very definition of cultural identity would be thrown into question. The return of the dead could also exacerbate existing cultural divides. Imagine the resurgence of ancient rivalries, the rekindling of territorial disputes, and the re-emergence of long-dormant languages and traditions. The world, already struggling with issues of cultural appropriation and historical revisionism, would face a whole new set of challenges in navigating this complex and potentially volatile landscape. The afterlife lottery: who returns to what? Karmic questions. Why did some return to loving families, while others found themselves alone in a strange new world? What about those who died young, resurrected into a world grappling with overpopulation? The concept of karma would take on a whole new dimension. Imagine facing a second chance you never asked for. The resurrection would force us to confront uncomfortable truths about our mortality. Life is a gift, not a guarantee. Every moment, every connection holds precious significance. One world, many awakenings, global reactions and rifts. The global response to the resurrection wouldn't be monolithic. Different nations with their unique histories, cultures and belief systems would react in vastly different ways. Imagine the diplomatic, complexities, the political maneuvering, and the potential for both cooperation and conflict on an unprecedented scale. Some countries might welcome the returned with open arms, seeing them as a valuable resource. Others, struggling with overpopulation and resource scarcity, might view them as a burden. The resurrection could either unite humanity or drive us further apart. The future would become a blank slate, a canvas for a resurrected world. Imagine the global psyche, stretched, strained, snapped. The return of the dead wouldn't be just a logistical nightmare, it would be a psychological earthquake. We've evolved to understand death as finite, a full stop at the end of life's sentence. This event would be like discovering the Earth is flat after all, only far more disorienting. PTSD on a global scale is almost certain. The initial shock, the constant reminders of mortality, the sheer uncanniness of it all. It would be a recipe for collective trauma. People might develop phobias of cemeteries, of old photographs, even of mirrors haunted by the echoes of a reality that no longer holds true. Then there's the grief. Yes, reunions would be joyous, but also agonizing. Imagine the pain of those reunited with loved ones lost in their prime, forever young. A constant reminder of what could have been. The guilt of those who'd moved on, found new love, only to have the past resurrected would be immense. The demand for mental health professionals would skyrocket. But how do you treat a world grappling with the unimaginable? Existing therapeutic models built on the premise of finite loss would need a radical overhaul. Grief counseling would take on a whole new dimension, as would couples therapy for those navigating relationships interrupted by death and reborn into a changed world. Imagine therapists listening to patients describe encounters with the deceased, trying to differentiate between genuine experiences and trauma-induced hallucinations. How do you counsel someone struggling to forgive a resurrected parent who inflicted pain in their past life? Or guide a young person whose mentor back from the dead can no longer relate to their modern struggles? The very language of therapy, of processing grief, of finding closure, would need to be reinvented. Perhaps the focus would shift from acceptance of death to navigating the complexities of this new reality, of finding meaning and connection in a world where the boundaries between life and death have blurred. Generational vertigo when the future reboots the past. The resurrection wouldn't just mess with our minds, it would scramble our understanding of time and progress. Imagine millennials getting life advice from resurrected Gen Xers who are now technically their juniors. Picture historians debating the accuracy of first-hand accounts from resurrected figures with their own biases and agendas. The traditional flow of knowledge from one generation to the next would become a chaotic eddy. Those who were once revered for their wisdom and experience might find themselves struggling to adapt to a world they no longer recognize. Their knowledge outdated, their values challenged. This generational vertigo would have profound social and political implications. Imagine the power dynamics, the shifting alliances, the potential for manipulation, as resurrected figures from different eras vied for influence in a world struggling to redefine itself. Finding meaning in a world reshuffled hope, nihilism, rebirth. The resurrection could be a profound awakening, a chance to reconnect with loved ones, to right past wrongs, to live with renewed purpose. Imagine the artistic outpouring, the philosophical debates, the spiritual seeking as humanity grapples with this event. But some may see it as a cruel trick leading to nihilism. The impact depends on our resilience and capacity for adaptation. The resurrection would change us, revealing our capacity for both love and despair. It would be a crucible from which a new humanity would emerge. Life, death, and the echoes between. The unanswered questions. We've journeyed through the chaos, from the initial shockwaves to the deep, rippling aftershocks. The resurrection of the dead, a concept confined to myth and imagination, reveals just how much our reality hinges on the fragile balance of life and death. It's a cosmic game of Jenga, and someone just pulled a block from the very bottom. The science is mind-boggling. Could our laws of physics be so easily overturned? Is there a cosmic blueprint we haven't deciphered, a force that transcends our understanding of time and space? The resurrected themselves would be living laboratories, their very existence challenging everything from our medical textbooks to our philosophical treatises on the soul. And what of the human heart? The joy of reunions forever intertwined with the sorrow of what's lost and can never quite be reclaimed. The need to rebuild not just our world, but our understanding of love, loss, and the very meaning we assign to our fleeting time on this planet. A universe redefined, what it means to be human, after all. In the face of upheaval, we'd confront a universe stranger and more wondrous than imagined. The universe has a sense of humor, and we're all caught in the punchline. Perhaps this grand resurrection is a beginning. The human spirit, like the universe, is resilient, adaptable, and full of surprises. What will your chapter hold now that death is no longer the final page?